Yogi Berra. Berra was a 10-time World Series champion and played in a record 14 Fall Classics. He was selected as an All-Star in 15 consecutive seasons and is only one of 4 players to have been named American League Most Valuable Player 3 times. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame as a player in 1972. Yogi went on to manage the New York Yankees and New York Mets following his retirement as a player after the 1963 season. Berra's legacy was not only written on the field, he was a larger-than-life character who transcended the game of baseball through his work in the community, his love of the game, and his always quotable philosophic Yogiisms. He will be remembered as a champion, an ambassador, and a true legend of the game. Yogi Berra was 90 years old.
Proud partner and official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, if you like great baseball, this is the place to be tonight. We're going to have a terrific game tonight. This is the rubber match of the series against the New York Yankees. Blue Jays won the first one behind David Price. The Yankees won the game last night in extra innings. And Pat, yesterday's ball game was as emotional of a roller coaster we have seen for a long time here in this ballpark. The players were talking about it before the game. How do you overcome an emotional loss like that so quickly, turning things around tonight?
Quite simply, you send Marcus Stroman to the mound. And Marcus Stroman is the kind of guy who lives in these type of moments right here, the huge games like this. Blue Jays, this is their last chance to go head-to-head against their stiffest competition within the league right here in trying to win the division. So you want Marcus Stroman, and he's like David Price for me. A lot like David, where they get excited. They love the big stage. They get excited for this moment. And last night, there were plenty of those in the game. You know, Buck, if last night's game was, let's say, a Game 6 of the ALCS, that would have been an instant classic because it was back and forth, like two heavyweights going back and forth. I expect the same tonight here. Neither one of these teams want to give an inch.
Marcus Stroman is 24 years old. This will be his 23rd career start. Arguably the most important start of his young career, trying to win this series against the Yankees and maintain their lead in the AL East. The Yankees scored 6 runs on 12 hits last night. Greg Bird had the big hit, a 3-run home run in the 10th. Let's take a look at the lineup for Joe Girardi's New York Yankees. Top of the order, Jacoby Ellsbury. He's had a great series so far. Brett Gardner has 3 hits in 10 at-bats against Marcus Stroman, including a home run. He's actually hit 2 home runs against Stroman, 3 extra base hits. And then down in the order is the rookie Greg Bird, having a terrific road trip. He's got an OPS over 1.3. He's hit 5 home runs, including 2 home runs in this series and the game winner in extra innings last night.
What a series he's putting together. The Blue Jays might have to think or rethink their game plan against Greg Bird, the way they are pitching him. Marcus Stroman gets ready for his 3rd start of the season. He's returning after that left knee surgery that he had to repair the ACL tear that he had in that leg. He's been terrific, I think, in those 2 starts. 2-0 with a 3 earned run average. Last time out, a little bit stronger than his first time. Boston, he threw 7 innings, gave up 6 hits, just 1 earned run to a very hot and very potent offense in the Boston Red Sox. He gets the chance tonight to pitch, like you said, in probably the biggest game that he's ever pitched in. And if you know anything about Marcus Stroman, you know he is up for this challenge.
He absolutely is up for this challenge. The defense behind Stroman: Ben Revere, Kevin Pillar, and Jose Bautista. Bautista with 2 terrific throws in last night's game to gun down base runners. Donaldson, Goins, Darwin Barney, and Justin Smoke. That's the infield setup tonight. Russell Martin back behind the plate with a 24-year-old Marcus Stroman.
And starting at second base, that's Darwin Barney. His first start as a Blue Jay. He was the 2012 Gold Glove winner at second base in the National League for the Chicago Cubs, the first by a Cub since Ryan Sandberg won in 1991. He also won a Fielding Bible award that season. He's an excellent fielder.
Another packed house here tonight. People still not making it to their seats because the lines to get in were so long. Jacoby Ellsbury 4 for 8 in the series. He had a pair of doubles in last night's game. Stroman is set. Here's the first pitch of the game. It is in there for a strike, and we are underway. 21 degrees at the start of this game. The roof is wide open, and the fans are anxious for another great ball game. Wicked breaking ball, 0-2.
Sinker away, breaking ball under the bat of Ellsbury. Ellsbury's had a great series. The key to stopping the Yankees is you got to stop this guy. He got him off to a good start in last night's game.
Breaking ball bounced in the dirt. Marcus Stroman lost his first start against the Yankees. He's won 3 straight, including his first start this season at Yankee Stadium. He went 5 innings.
ERA outstanding, just over 3. The Yankees have hit just .218 against him.
Strikeout number 1 for Stroman. He gets Ellsbury to start the game.
You know what makes Marcus so impressive is how late that breaking ball breaks. It looks like a fastball. You start to swing, and look at the break right underneath the bat. late breaking slider to pick up the game's first out.
One down, Brett Gardner. Gardner against Stroman. We mentioned he's 3 for 10, but has hit 2 home runs against Stroman. Gardner homered in Stroman's first start of the season. Strike 2. Gardner hit a 3-run home run in the 5th, and Stroman had no hit the Yankees through 4 innings. They got a couple of scratch hits, and then Gardner hit a 3-run homer.
Yeah, infield hits. It looked like Marcus might have been tiring then. The ball got up, and Gardner homered against him.
What's the biggest challenge for Stroman tonight as far as his emotions?
Well, he's the kind of guy who loves these kind of atmospheres, these types of games. He'll get excited, but he has a way of tempering that and staying in control and in the moment. I think the bigger the game, the bigger the stage, the better Marcus pitches.
2 balls and 2 strikes. The Blue Jays have a 2.5 game lead over the New York Yankees. Three and 2. Alex Rodriguez is on deck. Rodriguez had a single in his first at bat in this series. He's gone 0 for 7 after that. Breaking ball tapped foul by Gardner.
Every pitch, every at bat, every plate appearance, you can feel the excitement.
It's the way it's supposed to be. After tonight's game, Blue Jays have 10 games left. Marcus Stroman back-to-back strikeouts to start the game.
He has that unique ability, I think, to spin a baseball. Another breaking ball, 3-2, and Gardner swings over the top of it, and you can tell that Marcus Stroman is excited. Watch the emotion pouring out from him after that strikeout.
But you're right. He lets the emotion out, and then he regroups.
I think the one thing that he has to stay away from is getting too excited and then overthrowing too much. You've seen that before with young pitchers. I haven't seen it in Marcus in the past. But you start to overthrow or you try to do too much in these types of situations. You're facing Alex Rodriguez. There's 2 outs in the first inning. You struck out the first 2 guys. You don't want to overthrow now. That's when the ball starts flattening out.
Bouncing ball. Smoke will go as Stroman breaks to first. Quick inning for Stroman. 3 up, 3 down. Just 14 pitches. He retires the Yanks in order. Hits against the Yankees pitchers, scored 4 runs, lost 6-4. Take a look at the lineup tonight for John Gibbons Blue Jays. Ben Revere top of the order. Josh Donaldson right behind him, and then Jose Bautista. Bautista has been terrific lately. Over his last 29 games, his OPS is over 1.1. In that time, he's hit 8 home runs and driven home 23. Bautista for the season has 36 homers, and right behind him, Edwin Encarnacion has put up big numbers against the Yankees starter Ivan Nova. He's 9 for 26 with 3 extra base hits. Tough combination for Nova. Bautista and Encarnacion back to back.
And they're going to need him tonight against Ivan Nova. 14 starts this season for Nova. This is an interesting predicament that has happened now. This was supposed to be Masahiro Tanaka's start. He got hurt in the Mets series with a hamstring problem. Nova last pitched against the Blue Jays on September the 12th, that second game in that doubleheader, and they hammered him. An inning and 2/3, 7 hits, 6 earned runs. He hasn't pitched since. They moved him to the bullpen. But because of the injury to Tanaka, Nova gets the start tonight.
I expect Nova to be good tonight. I just think he's really wants to show the Yankees that he's capable of cranking up a good one. 1-1 to Ben Revere.
The problem that Nova had in that game, that was game 2 of that doubleheader, that long day we spent in New York, could throw his curveball over for strike.
Line drive center field. Ellsbury there quickly and makes a nice running catch. Well, the Yankees have 3 center fielders playing in the outfield. They've got great speed in Gardner, Ellsbury, and Carlos Beltran. Beltran is a multiple Gold Glove winner. Chase Headley won a Gold Glove when he was with the Padres at third base. Gregorius and Ackley up the middle. Bird, the rookie, at first base, and back behind the plate, the veteran Brian McCann.
And Bird has been awesome at first base. 33rd start at first base. He's filling it nicely for that injured Mark Teixeira. 290 innings now at first base. He hasn't made an error yet.
And oh, by the way, he's raking. He's got 10 home runs. He's homered in 3 straight.
Seamless transition from Teixeira to Bird.
This is Josh Donaldson. He takes a ball from Ivan Nova. Donaldson had a pair of walks last night. He finished up officially 0 for 3. He's gone through a little bit of a rough stretch given the season he's had. Everybody's a bit surprised by that. He's been consistent all year long. You see Nova's numbers for his career. In fact, he made his first big league start right here at Rogers Center back in 2010 against the Blue Jays. Donaldson is 0 for his last 5, and they are prepared for the bringer of rain. Got the nor'easters out just in case. Sitting on 39 homers. Two-2 pitch. Little chopper out in front of home. McCann out quickly. Throws. It's not in time. Looks like Bird came off the bag. Jim Joyce, the first base umpire, just waved him safe, so it should be an infield hit for Josh Donaldson.
That ball kept moving away from McCann and away from McCann. The Yankees are going to take a look at it, but from here it looked like Bird, the throw took him off the bag at first base. Donaldson chops it up the third base line. Watch the ball just keeps rolling and keeps rolling and keeps rolling. McCann makes a good play, but you can see from that replay it did pull him off.
Yeah. It's an infield hit for Donaldson, a swinging bunt up the third baseline. And a snapping 0 for 5. He'll take it. Jose Bautista. 8 home runs and 23 ribbies in his last 29 games. In that first start by Nova here at Rogers Center, Bautista hit a home run. In fact, he hit 2. He hit 1 off Nova and 1 off David Robertson. Home runs number 39 and 40 in that 2010 season.
That's the key pitch right there for Nova. He can sink that fastball, and it's a good one, but his curveball, if he's not throwing it for strikes, That's when the Blue Jays recognized that, and they started teeing off on that fastball.
Fastball, pretty good velocity from Nova.
Boy, a lot of fastballs, too, to the first 3 batters here.
Trying to get into the rhythm of this game. The Blue Jays have ambushed the Yankee starters all season long. They scored 3 runs in the first on Monday night. There's that good breaking ball. Bautista strikes out. 2 down.
It's interesting, getting ahead now with the fastball and now finishes them with the curveball. Jose was saying that he felt like they were really nibbling early in the count against him in the past, and everything was off the plate. This at-bat against Nova, a lot of fastballs early, and then the finishing pitch with the curveball.
Yeah, I think as a major league pitcher, you better be able to change your patterns or you're going to get knocked around. Encarnacion with 2 outs.
There's just too much video and there's just too much information that if you fall into one pattern like that, players are going to pick up on it.
Especially veteran players like Donaldson, Bautista, and Encarnacion. Got a lot of at-bats, a lot of experience. Another fastball. Edwin homered in the 10th against Andrew Miller in last night's game. That made it a 6-4 ball game. But Miller would then strike out Smoke and get Navarro to fly out to end the game. Down the left field line. That's a fair ball. Down into the corner. Donaldson is headed for third. The throw will go to third, but Encarnacion posts into second with a 2-out double.
The ball was hit so hard by Edwin and played so beautifully by Brett Gardner. They could only get a runner at third base. This ball is ricocheted down into that corner. Watch it roll around and right to Gardner. He gets on it, gets it back in quickly. So Donaldson cannot score. Hoping that the fans would leave that one alone, and if Gardner boots it, a run would score.
Gardner played it so well. Chase Headley was set up for the throw to go home, but he got to it so quickly. Donaldson had to stop at third, and Headley had to come toward the bag to make the catch. Justin Smoke with runners at second and third and 2 outs.
Little sinker down and away.
Smoke has a home run against Ivan Nova. It came earlier this summer. It was a grand slam at Yankee Stadium. Smoke's first career grand slam home run.
They're going to try and keep that fastball away. But if they try to come in with that fastball, he's got some tail on it, some sinking action. That's the ball that tails right back to the middle of the plate. And if you're Justin Smoke, that's what you're looking for right now.
Another fastball, but down and away in a tough spot. Joe Girardi's team very anxious to win this series. Obviously, if they lose the series in this game tonight, they fall back to 3.5 games behind the Blue Jays. Boy, he's painting with that fastball, keeping it down around the knees.
And now here comes the curveball. You're right. Set your sights down. He's keeping it down tonight.
Checked his swing. The appeal down to third. Chad Fairchild says no swing. It'll be a full count to Justin Smoke. Joe Girardi's not in total agreement with that call. Russell Martin stands on deck if Smoke can reach. He'll be the batter. These two teams, the Yankees and the Blue Jays, are two of the best at scoring in the first inning. The Yankees lead baseball with 119 first inning runs. The Blue Jays are fifth in baseball. They've scored 102. Donaldson with an infield base hit. Encarnacion with a 2-out double. Another breaking ball, and Nova gets out of the first. A couple of strikeouts. Blue Jays get 2 hits. They strand a pair. Scoreless after 1.
Between Mark Buehrle, and then on the other side was David Price. And David Price has taken a real liking to Stroman as well, and there's a good reason for it. David Price told me earlier this week that Stroman reminds him a lot of Chris Archer. In fact, it was Price who first introduced the two of them together a couple of years ago. He says that the thing about Stroman that amazes him is that he has a routine, he has a plan. With a lot of young players, things can tend to be a little bit scattered. And it doesn't just go to David Price. You look at a guy like Jose Bautista, who told me this week that his personality is so infectious that you can't help but love the guy. So not only is he doing it out here on the field, guys, he's doing it in the dugout, and he's making his impact known inside that clubhouse as well.
Well, Barry, he sure is, and he's just got one of those personalities where everybody kind of is attracted to him. He's very popular, very outgoing, and really upbeat. And I think he's the epitome of a team player. He's just 24 years old. This is his 23rd career start. Mark Buehrle's made 490 starts. But Buehrle sees something in Stroman that he wants to help nourish and develop.
He always has something to say, too. You know, you go and you talk to him and you ask him a question. He's very thoughtful, and he gives you a very intelligent answer.
What a great point that is.
Had a chance to talk to him the other day. I wanted to stroll by his locker. A friend of mine was his pitching coach when he was a little boy back in New York. Neil Heaton, if you remember him, from the Cleveland Indians. And I was asking him about him, and I said, well, what's the one thing that you really learned from him? He said, balance. As a pitcher, you have to have balance, and that's what I feel like I can do. And so what kind of drills did you used to do? I used to stay over the mound. Neil would make me stay over the mound and count to 10, and then I would deliver the pitch. And if you watch Marcus Stroman, he's very balanced on the mound.
Smoke goes wide of first. They've got plenty of time to get McCann. Marcus Stroman rehabbed all season long, and he changed his warm-up routine rather dramatically.
He will long toss and do the hops and the skips like you see right there, just to stretch it out just a little bit. It's a very unique and a very interesting way to get ready before he goes on the mound.
Now, I have to tell you, that is a lot different than Mark Buehrle's warm-up routine. Of course, Buehrle's 36 years old, and he's made 490 starts, so he doesn't need to go through all those antics. But Stroman, in his first start in New York, was getting ready for game 2 of a doubleheader that went 4 hours and 30 minutes. There's a drive off the bat of Beltran. Bautista will get there and haul it in just short of the wall. Beltran didn't get full extension on that ball.
That warm-up, like you were talking about, that's not something that he starts 20 minutes before he goes out on the field, is it?
No, he has a routine where he gets warm up in the weight room. He does some stretching, does some exercises, and it's a prolonged process. Much like David Price, he does the same type of thing. This is Greg Bird. Let's watch how they attack Bird tonight. He's been hot as a firecracker. He's homered in 3 straight games.
And the balls, all those balls have been out over the plate. Let's see if they change and maybe pitch him in just a little bit more.
Bird hit the home run in the 10th. Give the Yankees a lead.
He's got great plate coverage and great discipline. You can see that breaking ball is out over the plate, and it's not coming back. Home run number 10, a big 3-run home run. There was some excitement in that Yankee dugout when he got there. It doesn't show a lot of emotion.
There's a good pitch. You can see how it tied up Bird. That 4th pitch on the chart, up and in. He had to draw his hands in to make contact. Stroman strikes him out. The breaking ball gets Bird. Marcus Stroman has 3 strikeouts. He's retired 6 straight. Passing of Yogi Berra, and with more on Yogi Berra, here's our Hazel May.
Buck, the Yankees players are wearing that number 8 on their left sleeve close to their hearts in honor of the Yankee legend. And earlier today, manager Joe Girardi shared some of his memories of Berra, saying he was such a nice man, a humble man, a great husband, father, and someone who made people around him feel better about themselves. Now, as a former catcher, Girardi said he marveled at how productive and durable Berra was. He played in over 100 doubleheaders, unheard of today when you consider the demands of that position. Now, we also heard from managing general partner and co-chairperson Hal Steinbrenner, who passed along this message. Though slight in stature, Berra was a giant in the most significant of ways through his service to his country, compassion for others, and genuine enthusiasm for the game of baseball. Buck.
Thank you very much, Hazel. And you mentioned being a family man. He and his wife, who passed before him, were married for 65 years. And Yogi Berra was a seaman in the Navy that participated in the D-Day invasion. He was truly a great American, well beyond just being a great ball player.
He was just 19 years old when Berra, his crewmates were sent out ahead of the main landing force to draw fire and help U.S. forces eliminate enemy machine gun nests in the Battle of Normandy. Think about that. Just 19 years old. You're a minor league baseball player in the Yankee organization, and you're in the Battle of Normandy.
Yep. Of course, from Italian descent, his parents immigrated from Italy and settled in St. Louis. Russell Martin takes a strike, that comeback fastball. It's 0-2 to the Blue Jays catcher. Up the middle. Big hop for Didi Gregorius, and Martin's return. Yogi Berra received MVP votes for 15 straight seasons.
And he won 3 of them. 3 MVP awards. He was in 10 World Series as a player. And he was voted in the Hall of Fame in 1972. And the 10 World Series rings. But that wasn't the end of it. He also coached and managed both teams in both leagues. He was one of 6 men to have managed teams to pennants in both leagues. His coaching career was just as good as his playing career.
Of course, most people remembered him after his baseball playing days, especially the younger baseball fans, and don't really appreciate what a terrific baseball player he was. 285 career hitter with 358 career home runs.
I like the in 1950 he had 597 at-bats in 1950. Struck out 12 times for the whole season.
In the week?
No, for the whole year. 6 months.
6 months, 12 strikeouts. This Ryan Goins takes a strike. I asked Yogi one time, because of his low strikeout total, what his hitting approach was, and he said, look for the fastball until you get to 2 strikes, then protect the plate. That's all he thought about.
How simple. What a simple approach. It obviously worked. From 1950 to 56, he never finished lower than 4th in the MVP balloting. Pretty good, huh?
That's saying a lot, just considering who his teammates were. Ryan Goins takes a 1-out walk. So Kevin Pillar, or Kevin had a nice game yesterday. In last night's game, Pillar homered in his first at bat. That put the Blue Jays on the scoreboard. Then he walked and stole a base in the 5th. He singled and stole a base in the 8th and doubled in the 9th.
Those last 2 hits were off 2 of the best relief pitchers in all of baseball, Dellin Betances and Andrew Miller. And it gave the Blue Jays a chance last night to win.
Kevin told me something interesting today before batting practice. I said, what was your mindset last night? He said, I had been too passive at the plate. He said, I'm going to think about hitting a ball hard, very aggressively, and then let my eyes tell me not to swing.
Well, I knew where that came from. That was the same thing that Bobby Bonds used to teach us in Cleveland. Let your hands tell you if it's a ball or not. Your eyes are faster than you think. Your eyes will tell your hands. And Brooke Jacoby learned from Bobby Bonds, and he has passed that along to Kevin Pillar.
The Blue Jays might run against Nova. They think that Nova is deliberate, plus the fact that he's got that big curveball. That's a good pitch to run on.
I thought they took advantage of it the last time they faced Nova back at Yankee Stadium. They got on base and they were gone.
Line drive to center, but that's going to hang up for Ellsbury. Yes, Pilar hit it right on the button.
Well, that's twice now that the Blue Jays have stung the ball right to center field and don't have anything to show for it.
So Darwin Barney making his first start since coming to the Blue Jays. Gets a start tonight at second base. Barney is now 29 years old. He's from Portland, Oregon, went to Oregon State. In fact, he was a freshman when Jacoby Ellsbury was a junior on the Oregon State baseball team. Barney broke into the big leagues in 2010 with the Chicago Cubs. He came up and played in 30 games, and then his first full season came in 11, and he finished 7th in the National League Rookie of the Year voting. Line drive, base hit to left. Goins is going to stop at second. Darwin Barney with a base hit.
Well, with a couple of runners on at 2 outs, let's take a look at the scouting report for the starter for the Yankees tonight, Ivan Nova. What does he feature? He's got a fastball he throws at 66% of the time. He's got a 4-seamer and a 2-seamer. That 2-seamer can really run. I think the curveball again is going to be the key pitch for him tonight. If he can throw it for strikes, and then the changeup. They're only hitting 154 against that changeup this season. The curveball, his percentage of Ks via the curveball has gone up this year. So with 2 strikes, he's throwing it a lot and getting a lot of strikeouts with it.
Nova did not make his first start of the season until June 24th. There's a curveball. Ben Revere lined out to Ellsbury his first time up.
Well, it's a key, I think, for Ryan Goins to get a big secondary lead at second base because the outfield is not very deep.
Revere chases one up and away. The outfield playing Revere, he doesn't have a lot of power, and you can see how shallow they are. Gardner, Ellsbury, and Carlos Beltran. Beltran possibly a little bit deeper to the pull side of the diamond.
And it's a little bit easier to come in. That's all the information that Louis Rivera, the third base coach, is going to have to put together before this pitch is even thrown.
What are some of the other elements that Rivera will think about here?
I think one of the things that Ben's going to think about, he's got his scouting report, and he knows that Nova goes to that breaking ball with 2 strikes. It has gone up this year with 2 strikes, the usage of that curveball.
Goins at second, Darwin Barney at first. Gloved by Bird. Blue Jays hitting in some tough luck. They've hit the ball hard against Nova. 3 line drives have been caught already in this game. This one by Bird saves 1, maybe 2 if it gets down into the corner.
Presented by the all-new 2016 Honda Pilot. Proud partner and official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Rogers Center is the place to be, and that is the WestJet flight deck where everybody always has a good time out there. We move to the third. No score in the ball game. Marcus Stroman will face Chase Headley to start the third. First pitch strike.
Nasty. I was talking to Pete Walker the other day, the pitching coach for the Blue Jays, and I was asking him about Marcus Stroman in that little sinker that he has now, a pitch that he just picked up last year. And Pete said he's like a little scientist out there, a mad scientist, where he's just experimenting with the sinker, and then he can throw that slider, and then he throws his changeup, and all those kind of things that he can mix and match to get hitters out with.
Yeah, I think the best pitchers are experimenters. They like to try things out. First of all, they're gifted. They can do a lot of things. Secondly, they never settle. Boy, that's a good pitch. That's a tough pitch to lay off of if you're Headley.
And a good idea to go in there. I asked Pete, I said, how can he spin the ball so well? I mean, what makes it so important? And how does he do it? He says because he's got fast twitch muscles and he's got a quick arm. Whenever you see a pitcher that has that lightning quick arm like you see from Marcus Stroman, he's going to be able to spin the baseball.
Missed the outside corner. It's 3-2 to Chase Headley. Dustin Ackley, the second baseman, is on deck. Strikeout number 4. Another breaking ball.
Being able to spin a breaking ball is one thing. Having the confidence to throw it 3-2 is another thing. And Marcus Stroman has shown he's got the confidence that he can throw that 3-2. One more time, right off the fingertips. Stay on top of it, spin it. And it's breaking late.
Dustin Ackley takes it upstairs. It's 1-1. Remember years ago, I don't know if you ever heard this as a kid. I always used to hear the breaking ball is an optical illusion. It doesn't really move that much. I'm telling you what, they never stood it against Bert Blyleven.
Yeah.
Or Marcus Stroman.
Whoever said that never stood 60 feet 6 inches.
Darwin Barney has it. 2 down.
Well, let's take a look at what Marcus Stroman has been throwing this season for the Blue Jays. Fastball, low 90s. He's got great movement on it now. He can sink it. It starts to cut just a little bit more. Curveball, cutter, slider, and changeup. There's the mad scientist right there using that formula right there to get outs. He's getting a lot more ground ball outs now and at the end of last season than we remember when he first came up.
What's wrong with that one?
I don't know.
It's a ball to Didi Gregorius. Gregorius had 3 at-bats in his last 3 plate appearances in the game last night. He had flied out twice to center and then singled, doubled, and singled in the 7th, 9th, and 10th. He's had a good year. His first with the Yankees.
Started off slowly because he was following an icon, and I'm sure there was pressure to follow Derek Jeter at shortstop.
Talking with some of the Yankees, they suggested that when Jeter came back for one of the award ceremonies this season, he sought out Didi Gregorius, and he talked to him about, hey, be yourself. You're a good player. You've got a lot of talent. Just enjoy it. And they say it helped Gregorius. Both sides of the plate, and we're starting to see Marcus Stroman make the X's on both sides of the plate.
Boy, isn't that the key to pitching? If you can command that X's, sinkers and sliders down and away, sinkers and sliders in. If you can do that, if you can make the ball go both ways and you can throw it to the corners, that's when the success starts happening.
Two and two. If you envision that pitch chart and think about X's on both sides of the plate, balls going in opposite directions, you really create problems for the hitter. So a little looper into center. That's going to drop in front of Kevin Pillar. That's the first base runner to reach against Marcus Stroman. It's a 2-out single.
Gregorius has looked very comfortable in his last 4 at-bats. Everything that they have thrown up there, he has hit.
4 straight hits for Gregorius. There's a fly ball deep to left. Revere is there, and the inning is over. Marcus Stroman gives up the first hit of the ball game, and they strand the runner. When we come back, lead of the order. How about Donaldson, Bautista, and Encarnacion? They've all hit 35 or more home runs.
And enjoying those big comfy green chairs in the TD Comfort Zone, our guests of TD. From the comfort of TD to the party atmosphere of the WestJet flight deck. And the home run contest is now on, folks. If a Blue Jay player hits a home run into the flight deck, your name could be drawn to win $25,000 WestJet dollars. For full contest rules and entry form, go to BlueJays.com/WestJet contest. A lot of beverages being consumed. Let's just say that, Bob.
Well, they're grown-ups. They're having a good time. They're at a baseball game, and why not? Donaldson, Bautista, Encarnacion in this scoreless game. Boy, that's a nasty fastball. A lot of movement from Nova.
He's got two of them. He's got that sinker like we just saw right there, and he's got the more traditional four-seamer. That's a little bit straighter.
They're coming after the Blue Jays with heaters.
Very interesting, isn't it? First couple of nights here, the Yankees have been throwing a lot of breaking balls to the middle of the lineups. Now Nova getting ahead with that fastball.
Breaking ball lifted into center, and it's going to get down in front of Ellsbury. Donaldson is thinking about going to second, but Ellsbury gets it back in quickly. Josh Donaldson is 2 for 2.
You know, it looked like Josh Donaldson had a chance for 2, but his follow-through at the plate after he swung the ball, he went down to one knee. Watch, it's a breaking ball. He stays on it, and he goes down. He just doesn't get out of the box like he normally does. So it's going to be a single breaking ball. You can see him just trying to uncoil after that swing. Doesn't get the good jump, so he's at first base.
Looks like that breaking ball kind of backed up, and he had to really manipulate his body to hit it. Bautista went around on that breaking ball. Jose struck out his first time up. Well, you can see his timing there. He was looking for a breaking ball. He let Nova turn it loose before he initiated his strike.
Yeah, he has a pretty good idea what the Yankees are going to try and do to him. Throw a lot of breaking pitches when they get the 2 strikes. And why not? I mean, you got 3 players in a row who have hit 35 home runs.
Ball came up and hit Bautista. Fouled off the plate. Brian McCann will go to the mound and talk about this next pitch. They're ahead of Bautista 0-2. Trying to put him away. Tough trio to work your way through if you're an opposing pitcher. Donaldson reached with the single to center. Bautista behind 0-2. Encarnacion has doubled already tonight. Nova was taken out of the Yankee rotation because he was ineffective. He was 1-4 with an .874 earned run average over his previous 5 starts. They took him out. That breaking ball starts at Bautista's shoulder and breaks over the inside corner.
Well, one of the reasons they took him out because he had been struggling just a little bit. His 14 starts this season, the first 7 not too shabby, 4-3 with a .310 earned run average over the last 7, and one of those being against the Blue Jays, 2-5 with an ERA of about 7.5. Get breaking ball. That was the problem that he was having against the Blue Jays. He wasn't throwing it for strike. Tonight he is. He's got 3 strikeouts.
Edwin Encarnacion hit the double down the left field line his first time up. .31 doubles, 35 home runs for Encarnacion. Popped up and playable into foul ground. The first baseman Bird makes the catch. Donaldson still camped out at first after the leadoff single.
You got to start bunching these hits. together, the Blue Jays. They got an infield hit by Donaldson in the first, and then the double by Encarnacion was with 2 outs. Second inning, they had a walk and a single with 2 outs. Couldn't bring him in. Now they get a leadoff single, 2 outs again.
Justin Smoak struck out on a breaking ball to end the first. Brian McCann got hit with that follow through, and that hit him flush. Not sure where it got him, but you could hear the sound of the bat hitting flush. And that's a tough pitch for a catcher because it's down and in. You have to reach for it. Hit him on the glove.
It looked like it got him right on top of the hand. And that's where Steve Donahue, the head trainer, is going right to that glove hand. Even when you have that big glove on with all the leather, you can still feel it, can't you?
Well, and because you have to reach for it, it's an off-speed pitch. It's a curveball. It's going to hit the dirt if you don't reach for it. Obviously, when you get a fastball, you don't have to extend. But look how he reaches out to catch it and exposes himself to that backswing of Smoak.
Boy, it is exposed right on top of him.
That's what makes these offensive catchers like McCann and Russell Martin so impressive. They have to deal with those types of injuries on a daily basis and still put up big offensive numbers. They're going to give Smoak a steady diet of breaking balls.
Slow stuff. The slower the better. You might try to elevate at some point, but they like to throw that slow curveball to him.
It's so risky because Smoak has been so vulnerable to the curveball. You hate to make a mistake with one fastball. They throw that pitch again in that same spot. Smoak might be able to drill it down the left field line. There's a big gap between Headley and the third base bag. But they come inside.
We've seen him, Justin, hit the ball out of the ballpark to left field. He's got power. He doesn't have to pull it to knock it out of here.
No score in the game. We're in the bottom of the third. There's a drive down the left side. That's what we're talking about. That ball down and away from him. He's able to get to it. But that's sliced into the seats.
And that's probably what McCann is going to remind him. Hey, if we throw that fastball away, let's get it off the plate here.
You see, Ackley went over to talk to Headley, the third baseman. The shortstop, Didi Gregorius, is out in right field. He's a much more athletic infielder than Ackley, and he's got more range and a stronger arm, so he takes the deeper position. They come back with a breaking ball, and Smoak strikes out. 4 strikeouts for Nova, and this has been a terrific series. The Blue Jays won the opener with a lot of emotions. The Yankees took the game in 10. Tight ball games, a lot of emotions, big hits, and a lot of heroes.
NFC East showdown. Eli Manning and the Giants take on Alfred Morris and the Redskins tomorrow on Sportsnet 1 and City. Guys, what a great time of year for sports fans. Baseball pennant races, NFL underway, the NHL just getting started.
Lots of happening things around the sports world, and the Blue Jays, of course, trying to push their season into October. Play some postseason baseball. NHL in their exhibition season, and the NFL into week 3. It'll be 2, 3, and 4 for the Yankees. Gardner, Rodriguez, and Brian McCann. Brett Gardner is now 32 years old. Check that, he just turned 31 in August, and he takes the first pitch strike. This is his 8th season with the Yankees.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
He led off when Ellsbury was out with that hamstring injury from the 20th of May till the 8th of July. Very versatile player. Gardner missed most of 2012 with an elbow injury. He was drafted originally by the Yankees in the 3rd round in 2005. He's been a good player for a long time.
Yeah, he can do a lot of things for you. He can hit for average. He can run a little bit. Plays great defense. He got 7 outfield assists and 19 stolen bases.
He led the American League with 49 stolen bases in 2011. Leadoff man, always important for a pitcher. Get that first out of the inning.
Boy, he has that ability also, not like Russell Martin, just to work that count, make himself into hitters counts, make that guy work out there.
Barney waits back on it. In time, 1 down.
Designated hitter number 13, Alex Rodriguez.
Every time he comes to the plate, the fans are on their feet. First pitch swinging, Rodriguez grounds out to short, much to the delight of the crowd here at Rogers Center.
They are passionate. You can see him right above the dugout right there with the asterisks. For Alex, every time he comes up.
Two outs. Brian McCann, the catcher. He grounded out to first base. His first time up. Stroman has the Yankees swinging now. He's thrown enough strikes with all of his pitches that they don't want him to get ahead.
Yeah, and he is. He's pounding that first one in there. Batters are falling behind, and now they're starting to recognize that and they're starting to swing.
Stroman stays ahead of McCann, 1-2. There's a base hit into center. Pilar will get over to cut it off. McCann has the second Yankee hit of the night. Then here comes the ever dangerous Carlos Beltran. Beltran homered in the 8th. to give the Yankees a 3-2 lead in last night's game.
That's 2 go-ahead home runs in the 8th inning or later versus the Blue Jays this year. Twice he has nailed them.
First time he hit a pinch hit 3-run home run in the 8th inning off Aaron Sanchez to give the Yankees a win. Quality pitches.
Down. Changeup and a fastball. Beltran homered in the 8th inning in yesterday's game to give the Yankees that 3-2 lead.
No problem this time. Marcus Stroman drops the breaking ball on to Beltran. Welcome to the Stro Show indeed. 5 strikeouts through 4 innings. And this is his first season with the Blue Jays, and it has been a familiar pattern for Russell Martin.
Well, the hope was to get into the playoffs with Russell Martin. He did it 3 times with the Dodgers, 2 more times with the Yankees in 11 and 12, and then the last 2 seasons with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he's got the Blue Jays aimed for the playoffs. That would be 5 straight years getting into the playoffs. He's a catcher, and whenever you talk about catchers in the playoffs in the World Series, you have to think of Yogi Berra.
Yogi Berra played in 75 World Series games. Unbelievable. Derek Jeter, who played for 20 years for the best team of his year, wound up playing in 38 World Series games. 38 to 75.
75 World Series games for Yogi Berra.
There are only 15, excuse me, they're all the only active players that have played in 15 World Series games. Yadier Molina, Matt Holliday, Buster Posey, and Albert Pujols. 15. Of course, there are more teams now. The Yankees were the dynasty with 27 World Championships. But Yogi Berra's record of 75 World Series games will never be challenged.
Didn't have all the playoffs, wild card division, league championship.
Russell Martin gets underneath it. That's going to stay in the yard as Gardner makes the catch.
Make your renovation a cut above during the DIY Expert Sale. Only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center.
Lots of fans here. The young lady says, I may have planned the wedding, but I planned the honeymoon, so They're on their honeymoon.
Well, let's give them a present. How about a Blue Jays W?
How about a home run into the WestJet flight deck? Ryan Goins takes a first pitch strike. You know, I had a feeling Ivan Nova would be good tonight. I know the last time he pitched, the Blue Jays hammered him. They knocked him out. He left the game when he was down 6-0. Didn't get out of the second inning. But these guys have a lot of pride. I'm talking about professional baseball players, and he got a chance because of Tanaka's hamstring injury. And I just felt like he was going to make the most of it.
Blue Jays have hit him hard. They've given a lot of balls right at him. A lot of line drives into the outfield. Greg Bird snagged the line drive with a couple of runners on. Blue Jays have left 5 runners already against Nova. So I guess the bottom line is he's throwing zeros up.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. I don't care how hard you're hit. As long as nobody crosses the plate, you're doing a great job. For his career, we mentioned he is 5-4. This is his 13th career start against the Jays. Ground ball. Headley wide of third. 2 down. The Yankees lost Tanaka because he strained a hamstring running the bases Friday night against the Mets at Citi Field. They also lost their best starter, Nathan Eovaldi, and he had an elbow problem, and it's not progressed to the point where he can throw yet.
He can't really cut it loose. Says he's feeling better, and there was some talk, well, he would probably miss the rest of the season. If the Yankees get in the playoffs, he'd be ready for the playoffs. Now that is in doubt. I'm not real sure if Eovaldi's going to be able to come back. If you wait much longer, I don't know how he's going to be able to build up his arm strength again.
Yeah, the more time you miss, obviously, that is almost the time that you need to come back. Kevin Pillar lined out sharply to center his first time up. And remember, Pillar told us that his approach is be aggressive until your eyes tell you not to swing. That's a great way to look at it. Think hit until you think don't.
Don't hit. And now this is a good time to hit right here. 2-0.
His eyes told him that was outside.
And they were right.
Darwin Barney singled in the second. Three and one now to Kevin Pillar.
Had 3 big hits yesterday, a couple of stolen bases, and this is nice right here. A little inside fastball, and he crushes it to left field. That's home run number 11. We knew he got it. But maybe something like that type of game can get Pillar's bat going once again.
Ground ball. Gregorius boots it. Pillar is aboard. D.D. Gregorius, recognizing Pillar's speed, tried to get around the baseball and kicked off the heel of his glove.
And it'll be his 13th error of the season. He's trying to get around it, like you were saying, field it with one hand and then throw quickly. But it kicks off the heel for an error. Pillar's on first base, and this is a golden opportunity for him to run.
Kevin is 22 for 25 in steal attempts. Pillar had 2 stolen bases in the game last night.
And as a hitter, if you've got a guy at first base and you know he's going to run, you'd much rather have him go early in the count. You're not afraid to take a strike. But if you're going to go early.
got a great jump. Breaking ball. Throw from McCann is off the glove, but not far enough for Pilar to advance. So Kevin Pilar picks up a big stolen base. That's his 23rd of the season.
Picked on that breaking ball, and Darwin Barney does a great job. I'll take another pitch. You just get into scoring position. Pilar straight ahead. And that aggressive slide into second base.
The Blue Jays have another runner in scoring position, but that hasn't necessarily been a formula for them to score. They've stranded 22 base runners in this series, and they're just 3 for 17 with runners in scoring position. Darwin Barney can become an immediate fan favorite with a base hit right here.
Do something to help your club get a W. He singled his first time up. His first hit of the season in the big leagues.
Darwin Barney went from the Chicago Cubs to the Dodgers last year at the July trade deadline. Started out with the Dodgers briefly this season, spent most of the year, all of the year in fact, at AAA Oklahoma City. Fights it off and stays alive. McCann with another trip to the mound. Probably a reaction to the way Barney swung at that last pitch. Gives him an idea for the next.
Yeah, and he's probably not going to put a sign down here. He probably went out there and verbally told them what they want to throw right here, just in case Pilar is peeking in at second.
No sign. Popped up, shallow left field. Gardner, the left fielder, is there, and the Yankees get out of it. We have played 4 complete here at Rogers Center. It's a scoreless game. Now time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Song.
Postseason single game tickets go on sale tomorrow at 10 a.m. Fans can purchase tickets to the wild card and or divisional series by going to BlueJays.com or calling 416-341-1234. There is a limited inventory available. I spoke with Stephen Brooks today. He says there are several thousand, but it is a good and fair opportunity for all to get a pair.
So you just have to pretend like you're calling in to buy concert tickets, and first one gonna get the best seats.
Get them on speed dial, right?
Yep. Fifth inning, no score in this ball game, and these two AL East powerhouses going toe to toe so far, and the pitchers have the upper hand. 6 hits in the ball game. 2 for the Yanks, 4 for the Blue Jays. Greg Bird struck out his first time. You know, we talk about hitters and the way they set up, but if you look from center field at Greg Bird set up as a hitter, he looks like he can hit.
Yeah, high hands, nice level bat, not a lot of movement, stays inside that one.
Help is only 140 million miles away. The Martian. In theaters, October 2nd.
Greg Bird leads off the 5th for New York with a single to center. Chase Headley is 0 for 10 in this series. A strikeout victim in the 3rd. Smoke goes to second for 1. Goins back to first. Scoop by Smoke. Double play. The Yankees are questioning the out at second. Goins' momentum took him to the third base side of the bag when he made the catch.
That was a very interesting turn because they are in the shift. Smoke catches the ball and does the right thing. Let's get that first out. But it's Ryan Goins coming from second base. He's coming across the bag, so Smoke's got to hit a moving target. He stays on the inside. Looked like he caught it and had the foot still on the bag. Then he gets back to first base and digs that low throw out.
Great job on both ends of that double play. The 3-6-3 double play. That's the first double play the Yankees have hit into in this series. That erases the leadoff single.
Usually when that first baseman has the ball, he's got that shortstop coming right at him. That time, because they're in their shift, he had that hit that moving target who was actually moving towards the bag. You're taught as a first baseman, just throw it to the bag and shortstop will be there. Goins came from second. Very unique double play.
Dustin Ackley. He's had a couple of walks in the series. He is 1 for 6. It's a drive to center. Pilar's on his horse, and he's not going to get it off the wall as Ackley will get to second standing up for Ackley. A 2-out double.
Ackley hit nothing when he was with the Seattle Mariners. Couldn't do anything. Now he comes over to the Yankees in a pennant race, and he is getting a big hit after big hit after big hit. See his head stay right down on that breaking ball and just drill it to right center field. Pilar's not going to catch that one. It's going to be extra bases.
Ackley has talked about the influence of being around Carlos Beltran and Alex Rodriguez. He's had many conversations with those two veterans about hitting. And in particular, he said one game he sat for 2 hours and talked with Beltran. Neither one of them was playing. And it's the most he's learned about hitting since he's become a pro.
Well, now they got to face the guy who's had 4 straight hits.
Didi Gregorius, the shortstop. Russell Martin, very aware of mixing things up, and he's got a nice toolbox to work with on the mound in Marcus Stroman. Pick one of these, pick one of those. How about a couple of these? Ground ball. Goins gets a nice hop. Toss the diamond in time. Yankees get a couple of hits in the inning, including a 2-out double, but they leave another base runner still scoreless.
Any screen from anywhere. Subscribe to the 2015-16 season before October 6th to get the early bird rate of $179.99. Get started at Rogers.com/NHL. And Bucket also allows you the opportunity to continue watching Blue Jays baseball on your TV. And look at that, another fan of yours, Buck.
Sioux Lookout, where Buck and Troy, our director, enjoy fishing, and we appreciate that sentiment. Of course, we spent some time in Sioux Lookout this June and enjoyed some great pickerel fishing.
You know those guys right there?
Troy does.
Troy knows those guys.
Well, Sioux Lookout, you know, Troy knows everybody.
Yeah.
He's the man.
And everybody knows Troy.
We went to the donut shop and they said, you know Troy? No score. Top of the order for the Jays. Ben Revere has lined out twice, once to the center fielder, once to the first baseman. Off the end of the bat, Gregorius comes quickly from short, throws on the run in time. Nice play by Gregorius.
Boy, that's a nice comeback after the last one. He booted for the air. He comes in quickly. He's got great hands, and I'm impressed with the strength of his arm. This ball he's going to throw on the run. He knows he's got to be quick and accurate. That ball gets over there fast. They got a winner in this guy right here.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's one of the many shortstops that have developed in Curaçao and Aruba. Didi Gregorius was born in the Netherlands but moved to the Netherlands Antilles. Grew up in Curaçao. Donaldson bounces it foul. Of course, the Red Sox second baseman, Xander Bogaerts, he's from Aruba. Anderson Simmons we saw in Atlanta. He grew up in Curaçao, played with Didi Gregorius. They were both kids playing. I believe they made a trip to the Little League World Series. Josh Donaldson is 2 for 2 tonight. His average sits at an even 300.
Got it back up to 300 after those 2 hits. He started tonight at 297.
Nova staying away. Chris Davis leads the American League with 43 homers. Nelson Cruz of the Mariners has 42. Mike Trout hit his 40th last night. Josh Donaldson has 39. 3-1. Donaldson's career high coming into this season, 29 last year with Oakland.
And those home runs are byproducts of good at bats, and right now it looks like he's having another good one. How he's taken those pitches with that front shoulder closed and the weight on the back foot, recognizing strikes.
Look out, Jose. Donaldson took an awkward swing. He's talking with the umpire, and I'm not sure why he would have a conversation with the umpire. Maybe just checking to make sure everybody was okay after this bat. Watch the bat come out of his hand.
That's a bad feeling, isn't it?
Bautista was on deck. It was well over his head, but you see Donaldson, he was upset at something. Bouncing ball foul.
I can only speculate from here. Right before that pitch, he called timeout. Like he was trying to, I don't want to say quit pitching, but then he got set and he looked up and Nova had already started his windup. So he might have been asking the umpire to give me a little bit more time.
Full count, one out. He went around. That ball was way outside. He started his swing and he strikes out.
A little bit too anxious right there. Getting ahead with the fastball, and now he's throwing that breaking ball with 2 strikes. You can see he went. He's upset with himself that he was a little bit too anxious there.
I think you're right about Donaldson being upset by not having the umpire grant him time. Nova quick pitched him and rushed him, and then he never got set. And we've never seen him lose the bat like that.
No.
Bautista has struck out twice, once swinging, once looking.
He had just called timeout, and you can see just looked up, and that was on the ball where the bat flew out of his hands. He was looking down and then looked up, and he was in his windup.
You'll recall when hitters ask for time, the umpire generally stands out there with his hand over the catcher's head saying, wait now, let him get set. But it didn't appear as that was the case.
And I'm sure that's what he was talking to him about.
Nova has used the breaking ball very effectively against Bautista tonight. Now he's got a 3-1 count. Interesting to see if he challenges him. He got a fastball, but there was enough movement on it to take it off the barrel.
Yeah, whenever you see Brian McCann, the catcher, give the fastball sign and wiggle his finger, yeah, that's a fastball, but I want that thing, I want that sinker. And that time, pretty good sinker, just got it off the barrel of the bat.
Line drive deep to center, but Ellsbury was deep, and he makes the catch. Another hard hit ball. Blue Jays with nothing to show for it. They'll go to the 6th. It's a scoreless game, and here comes the Home Hardware cleanup crew. Brought to you by Natura, Home Hardware's exclusive line of safe, environmentally friendly cleaning products.
with MLB.tv. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on more than 400 devices with MLB.tv Premium. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking, and more. Every night on every device. Visit BlueJays.com for more details. Buck?
Well, it's a good crowd here tonight, and it's a big game. So when you have big games, you call in big announcers. That's Dan Shulman on the right, working ESPN Radio with Chris Singleton. Dan, of course, called Blue Jay games here for years with TSN. And now he is the lead TV play-by-play man for their Sunday night broadcast. But the Yankees, of course, are here. ESPN Television is here. And tonight, ESPN Radio with Dan Shulman.
Dan didn't have to travel very far.
Now it's a home game for him, that's for sure. Terrific broadcaster and a great friend of ours, of course. One of the best in the business. Top of the order for New York. Question is, who's going to bend first? Who's going to break? Those score only 4 hits apiece. There's a drive to center. Another line drive. There's Pilar returning the favorite on Ellsbury.
The all-new 2016 Honda Pilot. Proud partner and official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Last night's game finished up 6-4 after 10. A lot of ups and downs in this game. Every pitch is crucial.
And not one of these teams giving an inch right now. You've played in a lot of these. You've broadcast a lot of these. You've managed a lot of these types of games. Invariably, these types of games either end with home runs or errors.
Yeah. Mistakes from the pitcher and maybe a defender. But both pitchers are on their game. Marcus Stroman, this is his 3rd start of the season. He made 2 rehab starts in the minor leagues, coming back from that torn ACL and surgery in March. There was questions as to how you should utilize Marcus Stroman coming back from the surgery. And Marcus said, I'm coming back and I'm pitching in September. However you want to use me, but I'll be ready. But he really forced the hand of the Blue Jays because he looks like Marcus Stroman midseason last year. Goins positioned perfectly. Gardner is 0 for 3.
He told us that back in May or June. And while he was off, he wasn't just hanging around. There's Marcus getting another ground ball, and he's always an emotional kind of guy, digging that where the shortstop is playing. But the time that he was injured, he didn't sit back idly. I mean, this guy put in hours and hours of work a day to get ready.
He did most of his rehab at Duke University. Another ground ball, another easy play for Goins. He takes his time. Marcus Stroman through 6 innings. 3 up, 3 down on 7 pitches in the 6th.
days left. That means that our two caravans coming from each end of Canada will be meeting here in Toronto. It is our 22-day countdown to the last home game. You still have time to share your passion with photos or videos on social media using the hashtag 22BlueJays and let the celebration continue. And as you see, another great shot from another great fan.
It is a great promotion to start the caravan on both sides of the country and work your way toward Ontario and ultimately right here at Rogers Centre. Big crowd on hand, 48,056. It has been a terrific following. Bottom of the sixth. 4, 5, and 6 in the Blue Jays order. Ivan Nova gaining back some respect. Blue Jays pounded him around Yankee Stadium the last time he pitched against them.
An inning and 2/3, knocked him out in that second inning. 7 hits, 6 earned runs. His curveball's been better. It's been the key.
There's that curveball. Nova has given Joe Girardi everything he could have wished for, pitching into the sixth. The Yankees bullpen is working. The right-hander is Caleb Cotton. The left-hander, James Pazos.
Ooh. And look at Edwin's reaction. He saw it. He wanted to swing, and he just couldn't. Slow breaking ball that time.
And it was on the inside part of the plate. That's probably what fooled him. He was looking for it away. Boy, McCann and Nova done a terrific job of mixing up their pitches tonight. 2-seam fastball, 4-seam fastball, that good curveball. And yes, there have been some line drives right at him. Millar lined out, Rivera's lined out twice, Bautista lined out deep to center. The question now for Girardi is, how long do you go with Nova?
I think that's why you see some action in that bullpen already here in the sixth inning. He's up close to 100 pitches. There it is right there, 96 pitches. Remember, he's coming off of Tommy John surgery, so they can't stretch him out too far.
Breaking ball stayed inside. Popped up, Ackley behind second, makes the catch. That backed up on Encarnacion as well.
And his eyes got it. Huge when he saw it. But it never broke over the middle of the plate for him.
Nova's thrown a season high 105 pitches. That came right here at Rogers Centre on the 14th of August. He won that ball game, went 7 innings, allowed 3 runs on 5 hits. Justin Smoke has gone down swinging twice. Joe Girardi put Nova in Tanaka's spot when Tanaka had to be scratched because of a hamstring injury.
He really didn't have a choice. He needed someone to make this start right there, and they just happened to have Nova down in the bullpen.
It's his first appearance since September 12th when he started game 2 against the Blue Jays. Just foul.
I like that they gave him the green light there, 3-0. He's got power to break this tie.
Well, you said it. Chances are it's going to be a home run or an error that will determine the outcome of this ball game.
Usually is these types of games when the pitchers are on their game.
Catcher Russell Martin has grounded out and flied out in his 2 at-bats tonight. Nova has struck out Bautista twice, Smoke twice, and Donaldson once. Boy, look at the movement on that fastball. That's the old Greg Maddux swing back fastball. Strikeout number 6.
As a hitter, you give up on it. You think it's on the inside part of the plate, and all of a sudden it starts coming back, working its way back. And it caught plenty of the plate. Strikeout number 6.
Greg Maddux, the Hall of Fame pitcher that really had a terrific run for Atlanta. He's the one that brought that into prominence. Started pitching tough left-handed hitters inside with that 2-seam fastball, and everybody else picked up on it. Just foul outside of third by Russell Martin. You know, there were certain things you didn't do. You didn't pitch left-handers inside because most of them were pull hitters. But that's changed so much now.
Boy, and if you get that pitch locking them up, they start looking for it. That's when you can go back outside.
They asked down to Jim Joyce, and he said, yes, you did swing. So Martin is behind 0-2.
No argument from Russell. I think he knew that he went around there.
Pitchers' approaches have changed dramatically over the years. The strike zone has come down. Pitchers don't get the inside strike as much. They don't command it, so hitters have become very good out over the plate. So that's why that inside 2-seam fastball has been good. Foul ball. Third base umpire Chad Fairchild made the late call. Chase Headley couldn't wait to hear the umpire say fair or foul. These two ball clubs, they've played 18 games this season, and the Blue Jays have beaten the Yankees 12 times in those 18 games, and they maintain a 2.5 game lead over New York.
And this one game right here, basically worth 2. Blue Jays win, they're up by 3.5. If they lose, they're a 1.5 games up. So if you look at that, that's a 2-game swing. Just this game, and it's the last chance for the Blue Jays to put some distance between their nearest rival. Head to head.
The Blue Jays will have tomorrow off while the Yankees will play the White Sox at home. And that's the difference where you'll see that half game go away. The Yankees have a 4-game series against the White Sox. Michael Pineda will open up against Chris Sale. Two and 2 to Martin. Brian Goins has walked and grounded out to third. Russell Martin takes ball 4. That's just the second walk issued by Nova. And Joe Girardi's got a left-hander ready for Ryan Goins. Boy, that's the challenge for hitters in September. The Yankees have 5 left-handers. So in a close ball game, anytime Girardi has to deal with a left-handed bat, he'll go to a different lefty.
And 8 right-handers. So the matchups, he's going to play matchups for the rest of this game. Good job by Ivan Nova. 110 pitches, getting his team into the 6th inning.
A season high 110. Now Pazos in to face Ryan Goins.
During the DIY Expert Sale, only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center.
Another terrific ball game here at Rogers Center. We're in the bottom of the 6th with 2 outs. Ivan Nova, a terrific effort tonight. 5 2/3. He allows 4 hits, no runs. Walks 2 and strikes out 6. Now he turns it over to the bullpen.
First one out, James Pazos, the left-hander. We have seen him before. He is a situational lefty. He began the season in Double-A. In fact, he began the season on the Double-A disabled list. Finished up the season strong, brought up to the Yankees on September 1st. Faced 2 batters the other day and got both of them.
First pitch strike to Ryan Goins. Pazos faced Cliff Pennington and Ben Revere in the 4th and retired them both. Ryan Goins, boy, he's had to deal with a lot of lefties over the last several weeks. The expanded rosters, the extra left-handers in the bullpen, seems like every time Goins comes up late in the game, he's dealing with some different left-hander. Had Chase and Shreve here come into the game to face him last night or on Monday night.
He has put up some good at-bats this month. He has really battled a lot of these lefties.
0-2. He stays alive. Goins in the Boston series on Saturday was at the plate with a runner at first, and they brought in Tommy Lane, another left-hander he had to deal with.
Pazos is a little bit different than Tommy Lane. This guy's got a pretty good fastball and a sharp breaking ball.
Base hit for Goins. Martin is turning around second. He's going to challenge Ellsbury, and he'll go to third. Graded back by Goins. He comes through on an 0-2 pitch. So Ryan Goins messes up Girardi's strategy as he gets a base hit off James Pazos. An 0-2 fastball he drilled into center field. Russell Martin goes first to third. So Girardi will make another move here. Caleb Cotham will come in to face Kevin Pillar with runners at the corners and 2 outs. Baseball in September, and they have had nothing but great baseball in the first 3 games of this series. It's been terrific. The atmosphere has been great. Tonight they've outdone themselves. 48,000 fans here tonight, biggest crowd of the series, and the Blue Jays have runners at first and third with 2 outs for Kevin Pillar.
This place has been rocking. Caleb Cotham's going to come in now. There are his numbers in just 8 games. For Cotham, 8 appearances of the season. He came in that game on Monday against the Blue Jays and threw a 1 2/3 innings. Pretty strong.
Retired 5 straight batters, including 2 strikeouts. Kevin Pillar up the middle, base hit, margin to score. Kevin Pillar thinking aggressive, and his eyes told him it was a good pitch to hit the Blue Jays with a 1-0 lead.
Love the aggressiveness. You've got guys in scoring position. You can't wait around and start taking pitches. That might be the best one you see. And Pillar cashes them in. He had a big game in last night's game. He's doing it again here tonight, right back where that ball came from.
His 50th RBI of the season will be an easy one to remember. It gives the Blue Jays a 1-0 lead in the 6th with 2 outs.
And the wheels are spinning right now for both teams. Pillar with that 2-out base hit. John Gibbons has sent a pinch hitter up there. And Larry Rothschild's out because they don't have anybody warming up.
And they're going to go over this hitter, Ezequiel Carrera, who is pinch hitting for Darwin Barney. Barney started, went 1 for 2. And now with 2 aboard and 2 outs, they'll send the lefty up there. The Blue Jays now, with Pillar getting his 50th RBI, have tied the Yankees with 7 players with 50 or more RBIs. Goins with a terrific at-bat against the lefty. Kept the inning alive, and then Pillar cashed in. Russell Martin with a base hit. Carrera is 1 for 4 coming off the bench, and he's hit a home run.
They're going to have to shorten that swing up just a little bit. That was a tight little slider. Ball in the dirt.
The Blue Jays break through first. A 2-out walk to Russell Martin. The undoing for nobody. His line is complete. He'll be charged with that run. Close pitch. Leadoff man Ben Revere. Good cut. Fouled into the seats. Full count, 2 outs. Blue Jays base runners will be off on the pitch. They get a running start with this 3-2 pitch.
The outfield again not very deep with Carrera at the plate. You can see Brett Gardner right there at the top of your screen. That's the left fielder. He is very close. So this 3-2 count. Advantage Blue Jays.
Ball 4. That'll load the bases. 2 walks in the inning, and this inning started with 2 outs and nobody on.
Put it on a tee right here. You are looking for one pitch in one spot. If he doesn't throw it there, take it.
Driven to left. Gardner back. He gets back and makes the catch. Brett Gardner with terrific speed was shallow, but he retreats and makes the catch, but the Blue Jays break on top. Kevin Pillar, a 2-out RBI single, has given Stroman a 1-0 lead.
is Blue Jays Fan Appreciation Weekend presented by Allstate. Fun in-game activities and prizes to be won all weekend long. And speaking of appreciation, check out the appreciation Marcus Stroman gets every time he comes off the mound. First guy to meet him, always, David Price. And Stroman was talking about that the other day. He says, guys, this is like one of my idols growing up, and he's the first guy to greet me when I come off the mound. It doesn't get any better than that.
No, it sure doesn't, and the Blue Jays have done a terrific job of bringing in some stars, starting off with Martin and Donaldson in November, Tulowitzki and Price. Cliff Pennington takes over defensively at second when Bonnie, the starter, was lifted in favor of the pinch hitter Carrera. Marcus Stroman with a 1-0 lead. Stroman has been very efficient, thrown just 79 pitches.
53 of them for strikes. This little tiny 67% strike percentage.
Catcher Brian McCann will lead things off for the Yankees. Changeup.
That's the pitch I think that's been really good for him tonight. With all these left-handers that Joe Girardi has put in the lineup for the Yankees, that changeup has been a good pitch for Marcus tonight.
Doesn't like the feel of that baseball. He'll ask for another one. Martin and Stroman have really been in sync. That's down the right side and is just barely foul. Pennington was deep and shaded toward the foul line out in right. Smoke had a good look from his vantage point.
These guys are tough outs. It was McCann last night. You see that ball just foul down the right field line, who got it all started in that 10th inning with a bunt hit.
That was his 13th career bunt hit. This is playable. Ben Revere, the left fielder, coming in. 1 out. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. We are in the 7th. 1 out. Carlos Beltran 0 for 2 with a strikeout.
And it looked like it had to get some of the plate, didn't it?
Yeah, at some point it crossed the plate. Russell Martin chatting about that with the home plate umpire, Jim Reynolds. Now it's 3-0.
Be careful here. You got to figure he's going to be swinging.
He takes ball 4. That's the first walk issued by Stroman, and it comes with 1 out in the 7th. So now you got to deal with the red hot Greg Bird, and Stroman's going to get a visit from Pete Walker. Just a little chance to help him regroup a bit. Bird singled sharply to center, leading off the 5th. Left-hander Brett Cecil starting to loosen up for the Blue Jays, and Cecil had a terrific effort on Monday night in the 8th inning. Came in relief of Aaron Sanchez with a couple aboard. He gave up a single to Jacoby Ellsbury and then struck out Gardner Rodriguez and McCann.
All hands on deck tonight. Everybody is available in this ball game. If you're wondering about Marcus Stroman and pitch counts, there is none. Last time out, he threw 96 pitches.
Greg Bird singled in his last at bat. He's homered in 3 straight games. Fly ball, that'll stay in the yard. Pilar coming in quickly. He gets there, calls for it, makes the catch. Chase Headley has struck out and hit into a double play, and he goes after the first pitch. That's going to drop for a base hit. Beltran will stop at second. Look at that throw by Pilar. You talk about a sound fundamental player. Kevin Pilar does everything right.
That's the little part of his game that you and I picked up on, that he is a good thrower. Accurate. Right over the top that time. One bounce right on the bag. Kevin's got 10 outfield assists this season. That leads the club.
Yankees are going to send in a pinch runner for Beltran. Slade Heathcock, who was a pinch hitter in last night's game, and he reached on catcher's interference in that 3-run 10th inning. Well, Beltran is out of the game. Dustin Ackley, the second baseman. Ackley doubled his last time up. Two balls and a strike.
John Gibbons thinking about that lineup card. There's 3 more lefties in a row. He's got to determine if Marcus Stroman has lost something off of his pitches, or what matchup does he want.
Ackley stays on that pitch away. Cecil is ready. Line drive to center. Pilar takes it. Kevin Pilar got a good read off the bat. Marcus Stroman is pumped up. The Yankees strand a pair. Ackley hit it hard on the line, but here comes Pilar, and he's pumped up. The Blue Jays will go to the bottom of the 7th with a 1-0 lead. Andrew Bailey had 2 good innings of work here on Monday night. He's into the ball game for the 6th time. But let's go back to the top half of this inning as Stroman gets out of a tough jam.
Hung a breaking ball right there. He knew it, but the ball's hit hard enough for Pilar to run it down in the outfield, and Stroman sprints off the mound. He's fired up. Some high fives and some hard high fives right there to his teammates. And he's probably done after that inning.
Now John Gibbons gets another terrific start from young Marcus Stroman, his 3rd of the season, and he leaves the ball game with a 1-0 lead. What an effort. Andrew Bailey to face Donaldson, Bautista, and Encarnacion.
Bailey threw a lot of breaking balls in his 2 scoreless innings on Monday night. He only gave up 1 hit. So he's facing all these right-handers. They can expect some off-speed pitches.
Donaldson is 2 for 3. Slade Heathcock took over as a pinch runner for Carlos Beltran. He takes over defensively in right. Is headed for second. He'll get there. His 3rd hit of the night. His 40th double of the season.
Sounded like he got that one off the end of the bat just a little bit, but still got plenty of wood on it. Maybe off the end just a little bit, but down into that corner for extra bases. Now the Blue Jays have to figure out a way to get him in.
Jose Bautista, a couple of strikeouts and a lineout. Another runner 6 wouldn't hurt. Ball and a strike. And Jose checking with Jim Reynolds, confirming his thought that that pitch might have been up.
He is not thinking right now, at least on that last swing, about advancing that runner. He's thinking about knocking him in. We saw Jose earlier on this homestand shoot a ball to right field for a double. It was just a ground ball at the second baseman, but he beat the shift.
Upstairs, 2-1. Bailey faced 7 Blue Jays on Monday, but not Bautista. Ground ball. Donaldson will go to third. Gregorius offline, but Bautista is tagged out. Donaldson read it quickly and advanced to third base.
Heads up. That's heads up base running right there by Donaldson. You're taught as a runner, anything on the right side, a ground ball to your right, you stay at second base, but he read that that ball was hit softly. And by him advancing to third base, the infield has got to come in now, making Edwin Encarnacion dangerous. Well, so much so that they're going to walk him.
Yeah, he's not going to be dangerous at first. It'll be up to Justin Smoak. Blue Jays will be given their 12th intentional pass of the season. But there's no hesitation when you've got a base open and Encarnacion at the plate.
Yeah, and you're going to go to Justin Smoak. Now, Smoak struck out 3 times against Ivan Nova. Andrew Bailey is a little bit different than Nova. He doesn't have that big curveball like Nova did. Those are the pitches that were giving Smoak problems. I think this is a better matchup for Smoak.
Andrew Bailey, the veteran, former closer for the Oakland Athletics. Smoak has seen him a lot. They both were in the AL West. Bailey has held Smoak to an 0 for 7. He drops the breaking ball. That's the steady pitch that they've used all night against Smoak.
He usually doesn't throw that many breaking balls like that. It's basically fastball cutter.
Smoak just trying to make contact, get something to the outfield. 0-2. There goes Encarnacion, and Smoak strikes out. Encarnacion goes to second. For Edwin, that'll be his 3rd stolen base of the season. So now the Blue Jays have 2 runners in scoring position. Russell Martin got the big 2-out walk in the 6th. That was the last batter that Nova faced.
And he has had some big at-bats against the Yankees all season long. He has come up in crucial situations against the Yankees for the Blue Jays, and he has delivered. This is the RBI leaders in 2015 versus the Yankees. It's Russell Martin with 15 of them. 2 more out there for him. Jose's on that list, Edwin's on that list, but it's Russell who has driven in the most runs against the Yankees this year.
Well, and those 3 hitters have allowed the Blue Jays to win 12 of the first 18 games against the Yankees, the most wins they've ever had. One and two. Got a pitch upstairs, but couldn't get on top of it. They mentioned Bailey was the closer for the A's, and then he was knocked back by injuries, and it's been a real battle for him to recapture his form.
He had that good 2 innings the other day, and the New York people were talking about that he might have to face in pitching some big parts of ball games the rest of the way. The 7th inning. It's a big part right now.
Off the plate, Bailey thought it was strike 3. 2-2 now. Bailey was the Rookie of the Year for Oakland in 2009. Had 26 saves. He's been in these situations before. Russell Martin, his 21st home run of the season, a 3-run shot that ties his career high. He hit 21 as a Yankee.
72 RBIs now for Russell.
Ryan Goins, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
One more time. They tried to go hard away fastball, and Russell clocks it into the bullpen. Home run number 21. Big 3-run homer.
Second highest RBI total of his career with 72 ribbies. Goins strikes out, but the Blue Jays cash in big time. Russell Martin trying to lead the Blue Jays to the postseason for the first time in 22 years. He did it in his first year with the Dodgers, first year with the Yankees, first year with the Pirates, trying to do it in his first year with the Blue Jays. A 3-run shot, 4-0 Jays. tough jam on Monday night in the 8th inning as he was able to strike out the side after giving up an RBI single to Ellsbury. Then he got Gardner, Rodriguez, and McCann. He's on here with a 4-run cushion.
He gets to start the 8th inning here without anybody on base. Last time he came in, he was in hot water, and he came out of it looking good. First, the breaking ball to get Brett Gardner. Another breaking ball to get Alex Rodriguez. Then the trifecta. Big breaking ball to get Brian McCann. Probably his biggest inning as a Blue Jay to help the Blue Jays win that game. He's on here now to pitch the 8th.
Didi Gregorius takes one inside. It'll be 9-1-2 for the Yanks. Ouch. Boy, that hit hard, and Gregorius is down.
That sounded like it got boned, didn't it?
Steve Donahue, the Yankees' longtime trainer, out to check on Gregorius right off that shin bone.
Yankees know all about that, don't they?
Mark Teixeira knocked out for the season, fouling off a pitch just like that. They eventually found out that he broke a bone in his leg. Andrew Bailey, boy, he made a close pitch to Russell Martin, didn't get the call. He was bouncing off the mound, thought it was going to be strike 3, had to throw another pitch to Martin.
Had to regroup. Just like Didi Gregorius has to regroup now after that foul ball.
Cecil's curveball has been money. He made some slight adjustments with his hands where he sets them, and it's helped him a lot, Pat.
Yeah, it certainly has. He used to set with his hands out away from his body, and he felt like he might be tipping pitchers with his elbow moving. Now he sets up right off of his belt, a la Martin Burley. And since then, he has been much better.
Gregorius called for the swing by the home plate umpire, Jim Reynolds. And Gregorius can't believe it. Russell Martin batting with 2 aboard. Stroman watching.
This whole series has been about emotion and excitement and passion. Marcus Stroman loving what he saw right there from his battery mate.
Kobe Ellsbury takes the first pitch strike. Ellsbury had an RBI single against Cecil in the 8th inning of the opener. Bounced in. Nice play by Pennington. In time. Cliff Pennington, taking over defensively at second base, makes a nice play on a tricky one-hopper.
That was a lot like the play he made in New York, if you remember that, with Greg Bird and the bases loaded. And in between hop right there, he stays down with it and finishes it off with a strong throw over to first base. 2 down.
Strike 1 to Brett Gardner.
Tough to get this guy to swing at that curveball if it's not in the strike zone. Cecil does a good job of jumping ahead with a fastball. Throw him another one.
He did. fastballs, and Cecil strikes out Gardner. 3 up, 3 down. The Yankees go quietly in the 8th. Cecil with 2 strikeouts. 4-0 Jays. Now time for Blue Jays Central Update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zong.
For today's play of the game, you can do so by going on sportsnet.ca and casting your vote. I wonder what the play of the game might be tonight, Buck. And how about this? On the day that we lost the great Yogi Berra, former Yankee catcher Russell Martin delivers a big home run.
He sure does, and it ties his career high. He has 21 home runs now. Brett Cecil with a terrific inning of work. Much appreciated by the starter, Marcus Stroman. Stroman in line for his 3rd win in as many starts since coming off the disabled list.
That looked more like Brett Cecil was giving his starter a big bear hug right there. What a scene. Brian Mitchell in for the 17th time. He's 0-2 with a .604 earned run average. Hard-throwing right-hander. He's averaging about a strikeout an inning. He'll face Kevin Pillar to lead off the 8th inning.
Kevin Pillar gave the Blue Jays a 1-0 lead with a first pitch RBI single off Caleb Cotham, who came into the ball game with runners at first and second. For Pillar, that was his 50th RBI of the season. The Blue Jays now have 7 batters with 50 or more RBIs. A lot of Blue Jays players experiencing a pennant race for the first time. Roberto Osuna, one of those players. Center field, Ellsbury is back, and right at the edge of the warning track makes a catch.
The all-new 2016 Honda Pilot, proud partner and official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Cliff Pennington came into the game defensively after Carrera pinch hit for the starter Darwin Barney. This is his first at bat of the night.
99 fastball. You know, you were talking about players now just for the Blue Jays experiencing a pennant race for the first time. A lot of them. There's one. We saw Osuna, some of the other younger players. I like what's coming out of the bullpen as Pennington goes down on 3 pitches out of the clubhouse. The players, after tough losses, you hear the veterans making comments like, it's okay, we know we're good, you're not going to win every game, stay positive. Each day the guys come to the ballpark here, they're in good moods, they're not thinking about the losses from the night before, they're ready to win a ball game.
And that's what happens when you have veterans that have been down this road before. Mark Buehrle has pitched in a World Series. He's been in a pennant race. Hot shot, one hopper to Gregorius. Mitchell has an effective inning. We will go to the ninth. The Blue Jays have a 4-0 lead. Roberto Osuna will come in to try to win this series for the Jays. Proud partner and official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Pretty easy one tonight. This is an easy call. Russell Martin on a cutter out over the plate, unloads. Home run number 21, the biggest blow of this ball game. 3-run home run in the 7th inning, and it sends the Blue Jays bench going crazy as Russell Martin circles the bases with our drive of the game.
Home run number 21 on the season for Russell Martin and ties his career high, set in 2012 while playing for the New York Yankees. And that is one of the younger fans here in this crowd of 48,056. Roberto Osuna.
We saw Osuna on Monday's game where he picked up his 17th save of the season. This is not a save opportunity right here with a 4-run lead. The only blemish in that game, he gave up a home run to Greg Bird. And the first batter he's going to face is the first batter he faced as a big league pitcher.
Struck out Alex Rodriguez back in April at Yankee Stadium. Rodriguez 1 for 11 in the series. There have been questions about whether or not Osuna can close for a pennant contending ball club. I think he's answered all the doubters.
You know, he's been perfect pretty much. I mean, it seems like he's been perfect. And the minute he blew a save, everybody started that, well, is he's too young? Well, he wasn't too young to make all those great pitches early and all those saves.
Rodriguez lines it in the alley. That's going to go to the wall. He's headed for second, and he will get there with a leadoff double here in the ninth. Now for a preview of what's coming up on Sportsnet Central. Here's Ken Reed and Jackie Redmond. Thank you very much, Ken, and make sure you stay tuned for all of that coming up after this ball game. Alex Rodriguez with a leadoff double. Rodriguez now 1 for 4 against Osuna. Brian McCann taking all the way, takes his strike.
It was McCann in last night's game that got it started. And you can see where Josh Donaldson, he is thinking about Mr. McCann dropping down another bunt.
I don't know how he got out of the way of that one, but he did. Look where number 2 was, way off the plate inside. Scoreless game into the bottom of the 6th. Kevin Pillar with a 2-out single drove in the first run of the game. That's something we didn't see early in the season from Osuna.
Yeah, we saw more fastball changeup. Now we're starting to see him work that slider in there just a little bit more. It's a good one. A closer with 3 pitches. 3 above average pitches.
Ground ball up the middle. Goins behind second. What a play. 1 down. Another red star in the book for Ryan Goins, taking a hit away from Brian McCann.
And Osuna lets that ball go. It gets by him, but there's Goins to record the out over at first base. That's what the Blue Jays were looking for right there. Get that first out.
Slade Heathcock came into the game in the 7th as a pinch runner for Carlos Beltran, after Beltran drew a 1-out walk. This is his first at bat. Strike 2. Another ball fouled off a Yankee hitter.
Slider right off of the foot.
This is the 3rd largest crowd of the season. 48,056.
Fastball on the outside corner. Walks up Slade Heathcock. 2 down. The Blue Jays 1 out away from their 13th win against the Yankees this season.
Greg Bird 1 for 3. The Yankees would fall to 3.5 behind the Blue Jays. Harper into center. This will do it. Ball game. Osuna gives up a leadoff double and then retires the next 3 in a row.
That's what the fans came out here for. They wanted to see their Blue Jays get a W, and it started with Marcus Stroman, 7 shutout innings. Brett Cecil with a shutout inning. Roberto Osuna the same thing, and Russell Martin with the big 3-run home run to stretch that lead back to 3.5 games.
No question as to where Marcus Stroman should be pitching. He's 3-0 in 3 starts with a 189 earned run average. The Blue Jays 3.5 games ahead of the Yankees. Stay tuned. Here's Sportsnet Central. Ken Reed and Jackie Redmond. Thanks for watching.